Hey guys, so for this video for YouTube, I have a life story. I talked about it in a different video. I think it's called Alcoholic Adventures, and then it's like there's two dots. I don't know what they're called, and then it's blog combo #1 or something like that. I wanted to talk about it in a separate video because it's a really crazy story and it's also a true story. So it happened I would say 2 or maybe 3 or maybe even 4 years ago. I don't really remember, but I remember every detail about it because it's really traumatizing. What happened was I took Molly with some friends. First, I got, let me see if I have a nail, probably about that much of a snort, but it was on like this finger, and got it, put it there, and didn't hit me. A couple hours later, we went to our friend's, and he had empty capsules, and it was in powder, so we put the powder in the pills, and there were really tiny pills, like the size of my pinky nail, but like half of it. So like if you split it in half, it'd be like that size, like really skinny ones. They weren't really that big, so we decided that 3 of those little pills would equal 1 Molly pill. And I guess we didn't do it right because we're not drug experts. And I took it. About 15 minutes later, I felt an intense heat start from here to the back of my head, and it was like as if my head was on fire. And then it switched to a boiling heat in my head, like starting from my forehead. Like it was always my forehead. Whenever I would have an overdose or something, I was always like here, and then it would just go all around my head, and it would just feel really hot. And then I would have a seizure, and I had to go to the ER. I had it for like 10 days, just seizure. Trying to remember the order of it, because I used to remember the order, but I don't. All I remember now is just like the things that happened. So I went in, they gave me a shot, and probably about 3 minutes later, I felt the Molly for the first time. And I was really like high. I was like rubbing myself like that, humming, rocking back and forth, and I was really happy. And oh wait, no. Before I went to the ER, I was in the ambulance in front of my parents' house, and they said that my heart rate was beating, I think 3 to 4 times the normal rate, and then they said it was going to explode if they didn't calm it down. And I was on the ambulance for like an hour, and it felt like 5 minutes. So within the rest of the 30 minutes or 35 minutes or however long I was in there, it felt like I just went in there and then they just closed the doors and we just took off. And between that time, I was actually dead, and they had to revive me, and then they took me to the ER, and then that's when I got the shot and started feeling it, and then the next day, the seizures started again. Um, it was really intense, crazy seizures, like not the stereotypical seizure where you just she's up like that, or like shake. I was like, it, it looked like I was being electrocuted to death. Um, it was just crazy seizures for 10 days. And then after that, when the seizures stopped, I was having hallucinations for like 5 or 6 days straight. First, I saw Japanese letters all over me, and I know it was Japanese because I used to study Japanese a long time ago, and I know the difference between Korean, Chinese, and Japanese letters. And I recognized Japanese letters on me, and I was like freaking out. I asked a security guard that was watching me because I was on EOD or something like that, where they have to watch you. And I was like, "Do you see any Japanese letters on me?" And she was like, "No." And I come back out of the bathroom to see them, to after looking in the mirror to look myself in the face to see if I see anything on my face. And I just look her right in the face and I was like, "Konnichiwa." I know that sounds weird, but I really did that. And I went back to my bed, and this guy came up and he was talking to me, and it's like, it was so weird because he had like a giant Japanese letter all over his face, just like one letter. And I just kept staring at it, and I couldn't hear a word he said because it sounded like static and like Japanese and like EDM all mixed together. So it was like really weird. And I didn't understand a word he was saying. And I was just like standing there, and I can daze, just my mouth open, just staring at him. So I guess he realized that I was just fucked up. So I guess he figured I'm wasting my time talking to this fucking drug addict. So he went back to his room, which was next to mine, and then I went back to mine. And the next hallucination I saw was like links on my arms and my entire body. And it was like, I don't remember, but it was like .jpg. And I don't know really what kind of links those are. Maybe they're like music files or something. But it was just really weird because it wasn't like the other hallucination, the Japanese one, because the Japanese would look like tattoos. This one actually looked like scars, like they were cut into me. And the next hallucination was my ex cheating on me. That story is also long. I would have to do a different video for that. But to make it short, I had this ex in high school, and she cheated on me twice, 2 days in a row, got pregnant, and yeah, so I hallucinated her and the person that she cheated on me was having sex on my body. So like, it was on my finger, so you know how when you move, you see like your muscles like that? I saw like them doing different things, one like with movements. So like if I went like that, I saw her doing doggy and her standing up and doing doggy. And if I would move my hand like that, it was her giving him a blowjob and all this crazy shit. And what else happened? I'm trying to remember because like, I don't know. Like after something like that happens to you, a lot of the stuff sticks in your head. Like you can't just forget everything. Like I'm starting to forget about some of the stuff little by little, but not all of it. So that's like the majority of it. I'm trying to think if there was any. Oh yeah. I think the first day I was there, well, the first day that I stopped having seizures, I heard my friend's voice, and I was like, "Is that Andrew? Is that Andrew?" And the security guard was like, "I don't even know who the fuck you're talking about." And I was like, "That's him. I see him." And he was like, it was like, he was down. It was down the hall. I guess it was just like a random person. I mean, it couldn't have been my friend. But when I was like, can I go see if it's my friend? He was like, no, I'm your security guard. You have to stay with me. And I was like, well, can you walk with me then? And he was like, no, you have to stay here. And I turned to look at him when he said that, and then when I looked back, and the hallway was going, other way. It was like going further and further away from me. And what else did I see? I barely remember eating, and I don't know how I didn't starve to death or didn't die of dehydration because I really don't remember eating. Maybe I did when I was like in blackouts. That's another thing. I had a lot of blackouts. I was like passing out, having seizures, blacking out, tripping out, all this crazy shit, all because of Molly. And I do have permanent effects from it. I have been having seizures every day ever since, but it's not as intense. It's just more like twitches, like or some shit, like uncontrolled twitches that I have. It's just once a day. Sometimes it's an actual seizure, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I have really bad anxiety. My depression has been the same. What else? My memory has been before the event happened. My memory was already bad, like close to Alzheimer's bad, and now my memory is just sometimes it's really good. Sometimes I could play a whole movie in my head, like for instance King Kong or Forrest Gump or other movies. Like if I watched a movie a lot, I could literally watch it in my head if I wanted to. And then other times I completely forget everything and my own name and who I am and all this shit. And yeah, it's really depressing, to be honest. What else? That's all I have to say about that. One last thing though. If you guys are going to do Molly or Spice or Flocka or any kind of drug that isn't mushrooms or weed, because those are like really natural and really safe, a lot safer drugs, please do research and kind of study the fuck out of it. Like, pretend that you're in college and pretend that you're doing an exam for a teacher for drugs, so that way you can give a get yourself ready enough to give a presentation, because you never know what would happen. You never know if you would have an overdose. You never know if anything could happen. You could be allergic to the drug and not know. You really don't know what would happen unless you actually dig into research. And I know it's hard to do that with the internet. Maybe one day all drugs would be illegal. Who knows? That sounds really far-fetched, but in reality, that's the only way we could do research on those kind of drugs. But if you have a friend that's like a really, like, one of those drug dealers that sells everything, don't be afraid to ask them what the effects are, or what's the worst case scenario and what's the best case scenario, and what to do and what not to do. Because if you don't know what could happen, you could die, or you could have permanent effects like I do, or my situation could have been a lot worse. I could still be having really intense seizures and hallucinations and all this stuff. I could have horrible memory. I could have been retarded. I could have developed cerebral palsy or fucking Down syndrome or autism. Who knows what could have happened to me if I would have taken one more pill, or if I would have snorted one more ounce or whatever. Or who knows what would happen if I didn't do it. Maybe I would be the same person I am. Maybe, that the overdose would definitely not happen if I didn't do it. But please, if you're gonna do drugs, do as much research as you can before you do it. And remember, if you're with your parents or if you're living with your girlfriend or your wife, remember that you have someone in your apartment or someone in your house that loves you dearly, and they will be completely traumatized if you don't go home one day because you decided to do drugs. And the reason why I did those drugs was because of an ex of mine. I tried getting over him. Well, two exes of mine. They really traumatized me bad with the things they've done to me and the way they hurt me. And let me tell you, drugs and alcohol are not the way to get over those kind of situations. If you want to get over trauma, go to a therapist or do something that doesn't require you to go to a ditch and smoke something and literally have a seizure until you're dead. It's really not worth it. And yeah, I used to be a really bad drug addict. I live in El Paso, Texas, and about 4 or more years ago, we weren't really bad. We weren't known to be a drug place. It was really hard to find good weed. It was hard to find real drugs. It was hard to find mushrooms. It was hard to find LSD. But now, it seems like every other house is selling it. Every person's on heroin. Everyone's on meth here. It really blew up so quickly, and it's when you're a person that raised here and you see that kind of stuff happening in your own neighborhoods, it's depressing. It really is really depressing to see that happen in the place that you grow up in, and in the place that we used to be the number one safest place in America, but now I don't even think we're in the top 10 anymore because of how bad the drugs blew up here. That's how bad it got. It's like overnight it just blew up. And if you're watching this and if you're having drug issues, or if you're watching this thinking that you want to do drugs, please just think about what you're doing, because you have people that care about you and you have people that love you. And if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or multiple girlfriends or multiple boyfriends or whatever your situation is at home, you have pets to go to, you have children to go to, you have nieces, nephews, cousins, you have family and friends that care about you. And don't let them bury you just because you wanted to have an all-nighter on Molly or Coke or whatever. Because unless you buy it from an actual store, from an actual pharmacy, you will never know where you're going to get. And you will never know what kind of drugs they mix in there, unless it's from a legit source that you trust. And that is why you have to be very careful with drugs, because what happened to me could happen to you, and what happened to me could be a lot worse for you. You could be permanently like that. You could be having seizures in a wheelchair every single day of your life just because of one night you did drugs, or one night you did too many drugs or something. If you're watching this, I really hope that this motivated you to make some changes in your life. I hope you have a good life. Bye.